This is a RPG session for Geek Therapeutics and Cohort 27. My name is Mike A. Pratt, and I will be running today Fall of Magic for the following players. We have Tanya playing as Vago, Crab Singer of Estalia. Mike playing as Piccolo, Forrest, the Fox of Mistwood. Chase, the Knight, the Raven of Ravenhall. Corinne, playing River, Swineherd of Barleytown. And Lee playing Harp, the Fugitive of Stormguard. All of these characters have been joined together on a quest. They have received the summons from the Magus. Magic is dying, and the Magus is dying with it. And all the characters will be escorting the Magus to the land of Umbra across the sea far to the east, where magic was born. These characters are not necessarily heroes, but they have been called, and they answer the call nonetheless. We begin the tale in the city of Ravenhall, where we will begin our first, where the first thing will happen. And this will be done by Vago. We'll pick one of the 4 prompts of Ravenhall, and specify which of those 4 prompts are you going to take.
So the prompts are like
the bridge, the menagerie, rose gardens, scrying pool.
Okay. I'm going with scrying pool.
Oops. Okay. So now this is for you to take the scene. This is you're going to be telling this story from the perspective of Vago. Describe the scrying pool. What does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it sound like? And what and then as it goes on, bring in the prompt of why you serve the Magus into that.
So I'm waiting at the scrying pool, and it's in this beautiful garden that's surrounded by boxwood hedges and various plantings and long lawns of green. And it's this rectangular pool with a fountain at the front that I can hear going. And I'm standing there looking into this fountain, thinking and wondering, why am I here? What does he really want with me? I feel like maybe I'm being used, but I also know that this is something I feel like I had to do. So I'm here.
And does this answer the question why you serve the Magus, or is this as your prompt? You're not sure why you serve the Magus.
My answer is that I feel compelled to serve the Magus.
But note that this in the prompt here is that why you serve the Magus doesn't have any punctuation on the end. So is it why do you serve the Magus, or why you serve the Magus? Maybe your character doesn't know, and that's fine.
Yes. Vegas doesn't know. He knows that he's been called, and he knows that he feels like he has to, but he doesn't know what's going to happen or what it entails.
All right. So we now move over to Piccolo. Mike, go ahead and select one of the remaining prompts in this region. Locations. You blinked on the bridge.
I'll do the bridge.
Okay. Best always to start with a description of what's happening, or like what it looks like, what's happening, sounds and smells, and then go into the prompt, which is your face in the river.
All right. Leaning on the damp wood of the bridge, stretching over the slow-moving river that bisects Ravenhall, I hardly recognize the reflection staring back at me. Who is this old man who was once the most vigorous of youths, known as the Fox of Mistwood. He seems to be a pale ghost of that once joyful face. The years weigh heavy upon his brow, and his gray hair is a testament to the many travails and trials that he has gone through. Who am I anymore? Why am I doing this? What compels me to adventure once again?
That's cool. And then we're going to go to the local knight, Raven of Ravenhall. You live, this is your hometown, or home castle. Pick one of the remaining two, the Menagerie or the Rose Gardens.
I am going to choose the Menagerie.
Okay. And the prompt is, last time you saw real magic. Always good to start with descriptions of what it looks like, sounds like, smells like, and then move into the rest of that description there.
So the Menagerie is special in that there's small animals and there's large animals and there's plants and there's crystals, and it's an area, it's a clearing, and yet it's surrounded by forest. And these rabbits and birds and deer all wander in and out, and it's like going into a different place and time. And the last time that I saw real magic was here, that there was transformation, but there was also like wonder and excitement and almost difficult to describe.
So the group has gathered, and for some of you, this is the first time meeting the Magus, and maybe some of you have met the Magus once before. Maybe Knight has met the Magus on multiple occasions, or maybe not. Piccolo has been around for a while, so perhaps. But the Magus is almost a non-gendered person. They're very old. They've got just a wisp of white hair left. They wear typically like a white robe that's very comfortable but also warm. They carry a staff that is of some sort of like a blonde wood. This staff looks like it's seen some use, and it looks almost more like a walking stick than any sort of a magic staff. And the Magus says, "Thank you. You've answered the call, and we will travel forth in the morning. And some supplies have been gathered. And the next morning, the group gets together and proceeds out. Now, during this game, I will play as the Magus, but I won't be picking things. So, well, as this description happens. So, the next morning, the party heads out. Down the road, they will travel through the Oak Hills, where showing as the summer is coming to an end. And in the Oak Hills, we will go on to River. There are some prompts there.
Which prompts? Is it
Harper's Road, making camp, firelight, and at dawn.
I will choose who I left behind.
Okay, the Harper's Road. So describe the Harper's Road and then talk about how what this means to River and who you left behind.
So Harper's Road is just incredible. Like, you look out and there are these big oak trees that just look like they've been here for longer than humankind has. They tower above and they line each side as if intentionally planted. But, for a moment, River stops and is like, but how could that be? How could they be so perfect and lined up in this way when they've been here for so long? And then her mind drifts and she thinks about leaving behind all of her pigs back in Barley Town and wondering if they're doing okay foraging out in the forests, and what awaits her after this journey completes.
Now, Harp, you may have a different experience while the party is traveling through the Oak Hills. What experience does Harp have?
As the sun crests over the hills in the morning, a Harp feels a sense of trepidation in knowing that while there is a brief respite from this running, I'm never going to stop running. And as I take the small knife I carry with me and a flask of water and begin to shave my face as best I can, a semblance of control I am able to keep over my own life as the heavy scent of water in the air denotes the ending of summer.
All too quickly, after a few days on the road, the party makes their way over their last hill and climbs the ridge up to Barley Town, where they will meet the hospitality of the Barley Lord. Fago? There are several places in Barley Town which you might find something of interest.
Okay. I'm at the Inn of the Axe and the Fiddle, listening to other people playing fine music. There's drinking and the low murmur of conversation, clanking of glasses, and there's a strumming of a beautiful lute playing in the distance. But as I'm listening, my ears are being assailed by this horrible singing that this person is doing with their lute. What is this? Why is this happening? This is awful. I can't stand this anymore. I have to move on. And I leave.
All right. I think they'll be good. Let's press on here. Piccolo has a slightly different experience in Barley Town, or goes perhaps to a different location.
As I make my way up the slight rise of Swine Hill, I can feel the ache in my knee from having taken a glancing blow from a glaive battle whose name was long forgotten, but the scars still remain. The blood on my hands will never wash out, as I thought I was on the side of the right. But as it turned out, I was on the side of something far, far darker. The blood that has drenched my soul can never be expunged and weighs me down to this day.
And to continue this on here, Harp is nearby, maybe sees you on the hill. Do you make any effort to meet up with them, or try to hide you climbing this hill, this revisiting of old battles?
I would move forward, and noticing a limp in it was Piccolo, right? I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Noticing the faint limp in Piccolo's gait, I would fall into step beside him and express that I fought my fair share of battles myself. You never forget. the sound and the adrenaline. It doesn't feel like a real memory, but it's there nonetheless, like an old scar.
What does Piccolo say about that? I'm just curious. Or nothing.
You know. Oh,
or just woof.
No, you know. You know the smells, the sights, they never leave you. It's good to have somebody on this journey that understands the cost of war and the cost that it takes out of you to take a person's life, in combat or no.
Night. Oh, go. Sorry, I figured that was a good point for the end of the scene. So
sorry.
No problem. If you have something you want to say, I don't want to cut you off.
Harp would just flinch, but not to flinch.
Right. So now we're in a scene, and move on to Night. Where does Night go?
Night is going to the old abbey to visit an old monk friend who was kind of a mentor. And so Night goes to the abbey and finds his friend. And sadly, his friend is dying. And he's quite old and he's dying. And so he's sad about that. And as he's talking to him, and it's his last few moments, though, the monk says that he knows why the magic is dying. And then he died.
All right. And then River, this is your hometown.
This is my hometown. I am found in the farmer's market, and I am heckling and harassing all these people who I've known my whole life and grown up with, who are trying to price gouge me on some mushrooms that I need for this journey to save all of magic. How are they going to do this? How many years have my pigs provided all of the mushrooms for this whole area? I cannot believe this. And Susie, at the end, I went to school with her. We went to pig herding school together. Anyway, be that as it may, I pick up what I need for the journey. I get some mushrooms, some portobello, some cremini, and a little bit of magic mushrooms too, because maybe we'll need that on our journey.
Can't save magic without magic mushrooms, right?
Exactly.
After just barely a day of picking up supplies and staying at the inn, the group heads out from Barley Town, and before long comes to a fork in the road. There's actually a choice that needs to be made, and this is one that the whole group kind of needs to make together. The road diverges. In one way, you can head through the Mistwood, home of the Grey Rangers. The other way crosses the Stormguard Mountains, where the domain of the Storm Queen is. And I think everybody needs to come in and in character have some input or make some comment about what they would make in character in this. The Magus, for their part, says, both roads will lead us there, but I know not the way, or I know not which way will lead us there with the least amount of trouble.
Go ahead.
Well, Vegas has this to say in that simplicity is best. And the Rangers seem much more simplistic than somebody who goes by the name of Storm Queen, which sounds dangerous and like more work than it should be.
I agree. I was just thinking that if the Storm Queen is anything like the Barley Lord here, it's best just to avoid.
You've obviously never dealt with the Grey Rangers. As someone who has had dealings with the Grey Rangers, I can assure you that their complexity and brutality are not to be trifled with.
Mm.
Choose well, for I have no friends in the Grey Rangers and cannot help us in Mistwood.
I have no friends in the Stormguard Mountains. I would much rather try our luck with the Grey Rangers.
Luck. See how far luck gets you. The Grey Rangers.
Right.
Oh,
I would opt for the shortest path through to where we're going, because as the crow flies, we should follow that path.
But the Magus says that both paths will get there, and the journey will be perilous no matter which way. But the shortest path is, the shortest path is the one that you walk.
If we face peril either way, then best we go with the peril we know. And that would be the Grey Rangers. For I know them far too well.
Okay.
I will side with you, Piccolo, the fox, Mistwood.
But it
Go for
sounds like through the Mistwood is the way that that everybody wants to go. So
Unfortunately.
the road winds through the mountains, or through the foothills of the mountains, into the next valley, and the valley of the Mistwood. Here, Harp will encounter our first thing. That's a foraging trail of the Rangers by moonlight and camping.
as the campfire we have for the evening begins to putter out, as most of the individuals around it begin to start the evening's rituals for bed, I go over our supplies and frown before looking to River and asking her, mentioning that it appears the mushrooms she gathered have run dry.
I thought I had brought enough for this mission.
Grim nod.
Yeah. I actually want to hear what River might go on further to say on this case. Harp has found out that even though you bought a lot of mushrooms, they seem to have all been gone. They've all been consumed or missing.
Do we know where the mushrooms went?
I'd assume they'd been eaten, but I haven't been rationing them.
Well, either someone had a really magical experience walking the 1 day's journey here and is
Couple
quite
days.
full. couple of days of magic. Or we have a thief on our hands. I don't know which is worse. I guess I would rather at least one of our journeymen have been able to experience magic as it's dying one last time.
Vago,
Yes.
what encounter do you have in the Mistwood?
I
slows you down?
decide to explore the trail of rangers to see if there's an easier path than what we've been on that's been slowing us down, because it's so steep and rocky and not well maintained. Like every step that we take, it feels like there's an avalanche about ready to come down on our heads, or trees across the path. It's like there's something actually hindering us from going. And maybe if I explore the trail of rangers, at least the start of it, I might find an easier path for us to take. And as I'm heading down this path, the mists are deceiving my eyes. It looks like it goes to the right, but then as I approach, it's actually going to the left. And I'm starting to feel like I might be getting lost. So I decide to turn around and go back and let everybody know that I don't think that the trail of rangers is going to be the answer to what's slowing us down.
And are you able to go back the way you came, the way that you think, or is there?
It doesn't look like the way that I came, but ultimately I end up back in the camp.
Eventually, after some time, the party finds themselves somewhat guided by the Grey Rangers and are brought to the Hall of the Wood, where they enjoy the hospitality of the Grey Rangers. And this is Piccolo's hometown, maybe?
It is. And my former colleagues and comrades in arms. Should I choose an encounter?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'll do why we must stay.
In the hall.
No. This hall reminds me of my youth, of grand adventures and deep conversations by a waning fire over yet another tankard of ale. This is home to me, but ever since I decided to leave, or was forced to leave, some would say, it has always felt a bit distant until now. I feel myself drawn here more than ever. We should stay here and enjoy their hospitality, and perhaps we could renew my friendship and kinship with the Rangers, and they could only make us stronger if they'll have us after what transpired that forced me to leave. Bum bum.
All right. Knight, where do you go while in the Hall of the Woods?
I think Spirit Lake. I'm called to it. And although it seems very peaceful, it's almost too quiet. And the Rangers have taught me that, or taught our group, that things are not always as they appear to be. And so even though there may be calm on the surface, there are things underneath that could be dangerous or deadly. And you have to be very, very careful how you proceed or what you trust, including your own senses.
And River, where do you go while in the Hall of the Woods? You might be muted.
Yeah, I was thinking.
Okay.
Sorry. I go out to the hunting grounds, and it's so beautiful. Like it's beautiful, but it's quiet. So it's a little eerie. It It's a little eerie, unlike when we were on Oak Hill and it was just a sight to behold. Here it feels a little unsettled, like almost like things are too perfect or too beautiful.
And guess what? There's a new mechanic I haven't described in this game.
No.
Do you happen to have a chance cube, a standard 6-sided die, like at hand? I mean, I presume everybody does. I'd like you to roll that, and what you're going to do is there are 3 options here. 1 and 2 is wounded, 3 to 5 is the life you take, and 6 is the heart of the forest. Now, here's the fun thing: is you're going to roll this, and we won't see what it is. So you could just tell us whatever number you rolled, or make up a number, and then you'll continue this out. And note that if you get 1 or 2, your character will gain wounded as a trait.
Okay. I got a 1.
Okay.
As I am standing there and taking all of this in, somebody shoots a bow and arrow and accidentally kind of glances off of me. And I am wounded, and I'm snapped out of my reverie with this area.
Oh no. Now, this wound is something that you're probably going to be carrying for a while. And for the note, your character has this now as a trait, is wounded.
Okay.
Which, I mean, doesn't necessarily mean anything.
I'm emotionally wounded by the experience.
That could be it, right?
It glanced off me, so physically, I will be fine, but emotionally, this was deeply unsettling.
And Knight is coming back from Spirit Lake after getting this information from the Rangers about they can't trust their senses, and witnesses this. Knight, what do you do about this archer that presumably got spooked and is planning to run off without confessing that they were the one that shot it, and River, who looks fine but did take an arrow and might be hurt? What would Knight do in this case?
Oh, River, are you sure you're okay?
I don't know. I was just out here in the creepy, perfect place, and now I was shot at.
Okay, well, I don't think it was an accident. I think I want to go find this person and talk to them and see why they were shooting at you and who this is.
I mean, I would like to know. This never would have happened if I was back with my pigs.
So, I'm going to take a small amount of narrative control here and be like, you're not able to find who it was. When you took their eyes off them and you went over to help River, this person disappeared. Maybe it was an accident and they'll just be hiding, or maybe somebody might be hunting you. But the journey must proceed, and after an eventful night in the Hall of Woods, you proceed down through the forest towards till you arrive at the Spirit River.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do we have the arrow that the person?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to say yes, because a good GM would always say yes. So yes, you have the arrow.
Okay. Because I'm thinking, that might help us figure out who shot the arrow.
Yeah, perhaps. But you've come through the woods and you've arrived at the Spirit River, which will lead you on the road towards Astalia or to the Deep Way. But at this point in time, it is Harp who will pick a point from this. What follows you at Spirit River?
Promise that I won't keep, as I spend the afternoon attempting to gather fish to feed our party after the mushroom debacle. It tugs at me, knowing that I had promised a good friend, a close friend, long ago, that I would always do what was right, what was just. And I know in my heart, maybe I knew then too, that I wouldn't. I knew myself too well. I know myself too well. It feels like I am drawn inevitably towards selfishness. And as I string the fish I had caught for the day up and prepare to bring them to my companions, I consider how selfish I must be.
And how selfish is that? This is a promise that you made to always be true. You always have this selfishness, but where does this lead? You're fishing and you're thinking about this, but why is this a promise you know you won't keep? Because it sounds like you feel like you're going to break it, but you may not have. What more does this mean to you?
The spirit, it feels wrong. While Harp might keep the promise, I don't think I will ever feel like I have. There is always going to be a sense of failure in that, a sense of dishonesty, and maybe it's my own perception about myself in this situation.
Okay. Vago, what follows you at Spirit River?
I'm tormented as I stand under the dark sky looking up at the stars. There's a million of them in this black velvet sky, punctuated by little spots of white, hinted with different colors of orange and blue. And as I look up at these stars, I'm thinking about how terrible it was that I ate all of those mushrooms. I shouldn't have done it. I feel such regret, and it's just been plaguing me ever since. And I'm wondering if that was why the mists were so confusing. I don't know. That's what's following me.
I think if you eat that many edibles, a certain amount of regret probably would apply. So the river winds, and the party comes to a signpost. Deep way, this way. Now, the Magus, and some of you know, especially Vago, who's been from Estelia, the land of Umbra is far to the east across the sea, and there's ultimately two ways to get there. One is to cross the sea by boat. You can go to Estalia and see if you can hire a ship to take you there over the water. The other way is to travel underground through the Deep Way, a series of caverns and tunnels populated by the people who live under the earth. And as before, when we have a decision, I'd like to hear everybody's comment about this, along with a vote about which way you guys are heading.
I would like to see the sea. I haven't seen the sea in my entire life, and I've heard it smells. And having been around a lot of smells as a pig tender, I think I deserve to smell the sea.
Coming from Estalia, I can tell you that it's utterly boring, and you would totally hate it there. But if we're going with simplicity, then that's probably the route we should take.
Can't abide by being in a, and I don't admit this freely, in a closed-in space for very long. I need the sky above me. I can feel already just the thought of going in the deep way, the walls closing in around me, the earth swallowing me up. I trust you will keep this information in confidence. I don't want to appear weak and old and frail.
Night? Harp?
I agree that going by sea though would be the most pleasant journey. And maybe we can get anyone that's not at ease some more of those magic mushrooms from the market. They can have those if they're upset. But I vote for the sea as well.
Harp?
I will shelve my discomfort with the idea of being inescapably surrounded by ocean. And I will agree to go by sea.
You're far braver than I, and I applaud you for that.
Yeah, voting last in this case kind of makes your decision for you, but the record does show that you would have preferred to go underground. So you continue to follow the Spirit River. The trail passes along it for several days. And finally you depart from the river to travel over the hills to arrive in the port city, the citadel that is Estelia. And there it is, perched on the sea above the harbor. And upon entering the town, you find, because of the bustle, everybody seems to get a bit separated. You're here presumably under the hospitality of the Gilded One, but everybody's a bit separated and needs to find their way. But they will find themselves to different districts. And we're going to ask first, Piccolo, what district do you find yourself in?
I find myself in Nazad Station. As I walk through this bustling city, I catch sight of someone who I think I recognize. But as I approach, I realize I do in fact realize. It's my former commander of the Rangers, Treyhawk the Bold. At first, I wasn't sure, should I go and speak with him? It's been so long and so much has happened. But I work up the courage, emboldened by Harp, not wanting to be on the sea, but deciding to push down their fear. So I push down my fear and go and speak with him. With a tremoring voice, I say, Commander, it has been far too long. He turns and looks at me. At first, I anticipate words of camaraderie and shared joy, but all he does is spit on the ground at my feet, turn, and walk away. It is another defeat.
Man, Piccolo's not having a good time. Alright. Next up will be Night. Where do you find yourself? And before, I will remind that you guys, if necessary, you can call upon somebody to play a character for you. If you bring in like an NPC, for example, like you just did. Or if you wanted to bring another player character along as part of this to have an interaction. I've been calling on you to do interactions as we go along, but this is a thing that you can also do. Anyway, Night, where district do you find yourself in?
The marketplace of magic.
Okay. This is also where we're going to come into a new mechanic. Notice how there's a leaf icon next to the strange price. When you meet a place of a leaf icon, that's a symbol of change. And in this case, you will lose some aspect. Now, typically, if you've picked up something like beautiful or renowned or wounded, that could be an aspect you could lose. But you could lose your part of your identity, your home, or even your own name. as part of this, as part of the strange price here in the marketplace of magic. Percy?
It's the marketplace is very, very busy. It's almost overwhelming. But I feel like there are answers here. I want to talk to someone in one of the booths and see what I can buy. So,
Did you need me to bring in an NPC on this one, or you don't have to. You can continue telling the story here,
no, that would be great. That would be helpful. I am very, very new to all this, Mike. So I appreciate any help you give me.
No, seriously, you guys have been great and going along fantastic up to this point. I haven't needed to really bring in, really do too much in the way of helping. So if you've got something in mind that you want to go for this, please play it out. If you are lost, also this is true for anybody, if you do get lost, you don't know what's going on, feel free to ask for help, and the rest of us can help you with that. I'll help you with that, or somebody else can help you with that.
I'd love to have help.
Okay. So, there is a woman at this booth. She has long, raven black hair and a bit of a pale complexion, and she looks. You're kind of maybe a little bit drawn because she's got bottles of brightly colored glass hanging from her booth, and there's a small incense censer that's burning something that smells vaguely of cinnamon, but not quite. And you think that this woman she's young and maybe a little attractive, and you go over there, and when she speaks, you realize that she's a tremendous amount older than you think. And she says, also real quick, because it'll help me out here, what gender is Knight, or does it matter?
It doesn't matter. I think I was leaning more towards a man, so okay. Male.
All right. Yeah, come closer, young one. I think I have what you're looking for here. And this woman who looks young but seems old offers up a box and says, I understand that you're on a journey, and that there will be perils on the way, and that this box will have something in it that you will find that you may want, or something that you may want but don't need, or it may be something that you need but don't want. And it is yours, but know that there is a price for it.
Well, I am intrigued. So, what is the price? I have some coins, but what would you like?
I would like the price for this will be your shadow.
My shadow?
Do we have a deal?
I don't see why not. Sure, I'll do that.
As this woman who appears young but actually is quite old holds out this box, and as you take it, a cold feeling runs up your arms and your spine. And as you step away from the box and you realize it's got some sort of a weird lock clasp on it, nothing you can't open, but it's not something that you could just you're gonna have to fiddle with this a little bit, put in the code or turn the gems so they all face the right way, kind of thing. You find that yourself in a different part, still the marketplace of magic, but you're not able to see where it was. And you realize that more than just your shadow, that you have lost some part of yourself. And this realization comes to you as you fiddle with a clasp and you open up the box and find the item within. And so I'm going to then ask you, because this is your character and your story, 2 questions. First, what is the item within? Obviously, I've given you some idea because it would fit in what would be a small kind of jewelry box size, as agreed. And second, what have you lost? Your name, your hometown, or perhaps your title of Raven?
So I would say that the item in the box is a compass, but it looks different than a compass I have seen before. So I'm not quite sure how it works. And the thing I've lost perhaps would be, because you mentioned the smell of the fragrances in the booth, I think I've lost my sense of smell.
Okay. Then that's a fine way to interpret the way this works. So your shadow, and then for argument's sake, you no longer seem to cast a shadow because magic. But your sense of smell is gone, and that may have an effect later.
Mike, I'm a little confused because I would have thought that the shadow would have been the thing that she lost. And it seems like she's lost 2 things, so that confuses me a little.
Okay, well, we can talk about this here. I just said, because I was just making something up on the fly about the shadow thing, but perhaps maybe it's the sense of smell instead of the shadow, and we could just retcon and say that was the price the whole time.
See, and I took it as the price was the shadow, but then I also lost something.
Okay.
I don't know.
That works. No, and to be honest, you're not wrong. That does definitely feel like 2 things. But maybe the sense of smell is just incidental. The price was the shadow, and the sense of smell just the incense burned it out.
Okay.
So we move on to River. What district does River find themselves in?
River goes to the Gilded District and looks around. And while there's a lot of beautiful fine goods for sale, there's some fine china. There's a lot of beautiful, handsomely made clothing. But River is totally focused. I am completely consumed with the food section. There are delicacies from all over the globe because, it's with the ships coming and going, everything is as fresh as you can get it for this kind of part of the continent. And in particular, she's drawn to these mushrooms that she's never seen before. They're black and they're folded around the sides. And they're kind of squishy to the touch, which the person who's selling them is stop it! Will somebody play the mushroom keeper for me?
Don't touch them that way. Hands off.
They're so squishy. How can they exist out in the wild? The pig would just crush them before we even got them back.
Yes, I would not recommend feeding them to your pig. They're special delicacies and highly expensive.
I mean, how expensive? I have some earnings from my time.
How much is in your purse?
120 gold.
It's 100.
Oh, I can't afford that for my journey.
I'll give you half of one for half.
Okay, then. I will take half of one. Can I eat it as is?
Oh no, definitely needs to be cooked and run through several alkaline baths.
I don't know what that means, but thank you.
You're very welcome. Your business is much appreciated.
And River departs with the half of a mushroom that she really couldn't afford.
And Harp, there's a few places left in Estelia, and I think you should find one of those before the party.
I think I do. I think I find myself in the Badwater district being jostled and overwhelmed by the pungent sense of street food and just bodies in this crowded district. And as I'm jostled, my ears pick up mutterings, and I dip into an alley. Naturally curious, naturally inquisitive, these sound like harsh voices. And at first I expect to hear plottings or something real, something tangible, but it's just disgruntled talk and people murmuring about how perhaps it's a good thing that magic is finally dying. Perhaps this will be what's required to bring about the change that they had wanted to bring. And upon realizing that this perhaps has something to do with me and mine, but nothing tangible, I hunker in on myself and brave the bustling streets once more to attempt to find my companions and perhaps share with them this distaste the people here, or at least several people here, have of magic.
Now, on the way out, you run into Piccolo, who is, I don't know, perhaps slightly upset after Piccolo's interaction at Nizad Station, but sees part of this. And Piccolo, what do you think is happening with this, or what sort of have an interaction?
My friend, are you okay? This seems rather energetic for this town. People seem to be quite disgruntled. Do we need to intervene here?
No, I think we just need to keep our goal quiet. There is a distaste in this town for what we do, for what we seek to do.
Well, perhaps we need to figure out where this distaste is coming from. Maybe we need to find out the root of this.
I don't know if we have time for that.
I really, really hate this place. With every fiber of my being. It is a place of ignorance and woe.
Then we should make our business brief.
Yes, I hope never to return here.
As through luck, fate, or perhaps even some amount of magic, the party finds themselves meeting up one at a time. You meet with Knight coming out of a shopping district, and River coming holding a bag of mushrooms, and Vago and the Magus, who were never lost the whole time because Vago knows their way around here, and the Magus. They come up. The Magus says, "I have made arrangements for a ship that will take us across the sea, and there will be there's an inn that's nearby on the docks that we can make use of, and we will leave on the morning